Here doing chapter 9, we're going to find that this is one of the most scattered chapters that we have to deal with. It tries to put some things together, but it's really a conglomeration of all kinds of little things here and there. So I'll try and provide some framework for it, but it's still going to not always make a linear, sense pattern here. All right? So we've done the trial balance, we've done the income statement, we've done the balance sheet. That's all across our 6-column worksheet. But what happens is a lot of managers, a lot of business people, and the IRS don't want to read a 6-column worksheet. They want to have those things laid out in individual forms so that they can look at them on a piece of paper and say, I want the income statement, I want the balance sheet. And so we have to provide some steps to getting to those things in individual form. So what we're going to do is we're going to introduce something called a worksheet. Now, when you're doing these types of documents like the income statement on a worksheet, you will have a column over here and a column over there, and it looks like debit and credit. But you will notice on the worksheet there's no labels for debit and credit. And so after all these chapters of training you, debit on the left, credit on the right, debit on the left, credit on the right, now the worksheet just says fill in some numbers that make sense to you. Okay? So the income statement is the simplest one. If we were to take that from the 6-column worksheet and plug the numbers in here, we would get some format that sort of organizes these numbers in such a way that they're distinguished from each other and grouped into, the areas of which they have the similarities. So if we were to put revenue, it's just a title, we would indent it. These are the types of revenues, and so that indent sort of makes it like it's a subheading of revenue. So this is delivery revenue. And we would put revenue over here on the far right because usually it's a credit. And so in our minds, we would say that. But you don't have to. You could just do them all in one column. As long as you can keep things straight, that's fine. But just to communicate to people that this is the revenue number and it's generally a credit, we generally put it over on the right side. And that's when things get a little fuzzy, okay? Expenses would be the next one, and generally they're a debit, so we're generally going to put it over here on the left side. And so we do these types of formats just to make some cohesive sense out of it. So this is our outline framework for what we're reporting, and these are the numbers that are organized in such a way that it kind of makes sense to us as accountants, okay? So, someone could look at this and say revenue, delivery, that's a subheading like an outline, so okay, that goes together, and that number is offset from these numbers, so that must mean they're different, and that's why we offset them. So there's no hard and fast rule about where you put these. It's just more of a art form of how to structure accounting numbers. So we've got our revenue, we indent it with delivery, and we generally put it on the right for a credit. We've got our expenses. See, it's lined up with revenue, so it's like a different heading, a different topic, and then these are the subtopics under this category of expenses. That's why we indent it. And so all of those are put over here, and these are our expenses. And I like to put them on the right the left, because expenses go with debits, and so it looks like these are credits and it looks like those are debits, but there's no label. Now, because I have more than one here, I have to total it up. So I'm going to write total. And because I indented it even more under the subheading of expenses, it tells someone this total is just for expenses. And if that wasn't enough, I'll just label it, okay? So I'm not totaling everything, I'm totaling just the expenses. And I get my total over here of $14.25. All right? Now, you can put that underneath all your expenses, or you can put it over here. It doesn't have to go here. It could go over there, because then it's showing that you're going to do revenue minus expenses and get your net income. All right? See, we've got a whole nother topic here, net income. And in fact, you can put spaces between these if you want to distinguish them even more. So maybe I want to drop this net income down a space and really offset it from everything else so that it stands out in someone's mind. Net income, it's very important. It's all by itself. Okay? So this is the art of making worksheets that have like the balance sheet, the trial balance, the income statement, and a new one we're going to get into, statement of changes in owner's equity. So the way you structure these, the formatting is designed to offset different titles from other titles, and anything under that title is indented to give you the idea that it belongs with that one. And now we've got a new one so that everything comes after that goes with the new heading. Okay? So the formatting in this case is less about putting it somewhere because of some rule or principle and more about drawing attention to another human being's eyes to say, these go together and these go together and this goes with that one because it's still indented underneath, and then this net income is totally different than what came before. So that's why we do the formatting in the style we do. So if you were to put your total here under expenses, and then you have revenue minus expenses equals your net income. Okay, if you were to put your total expenses over here, you had all your expenses and then you put the total over there, it would, line up with revenue minus expenses and get your total income. Okay, you can do that too. So the income statement, the balance sheet, what we're going to be doing in Chapter 9 is more about the art of presentation of this information so that, the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS on taxes will look at this and go, yeah, oh, net income, oh, look, there, okay, we got it. And so that's the type of framing or formatting that we're doing in this chapter. It becomes more of an art and less of a science. Okay? So keep that in mind as we go through this. When I write things on the board for balance sheet, for statement of changes in owner's equity, you might be sitting there focusing on well, he put that on the left, but in the book it's on the right. It's okay, because it really doesn't matter. The point is to put things in some coherent grouping so that revenue, delivery revenue, yeah, but this is different. Expenses, yeah, okay, and this is the total of expenses. I might as well just label it, So that's the thing that we're doing here in Chapter 9, is we're getting into the art of presenting things to another person. So instead of the big 6-column worksheet where everything's there and you have to try and sort all those numbers, now we're presenting it to people in a more understandable format to folks who maybe are less familiar with accounting. So that's the big picture for Chapter 9. The second thing that the book does for Chapter 9 is they throw in all kinds of ratios and calculations and things like that, because I don't think the book had any other place to put them. And now that we have the figures for the balance sheet, the income statement, the net income, we can see those things and start doing some calculations. So, what a lot of accountants do is they make sure that they have all those things in a book and they keep a tab to it. And when they need to, they just reference it. They don't memorize every one of these things, okay? Because it's so many formulas to memorize, and would you really want to mess it up? No, you'd probably want to double check. So Chapter 9 is an open book test. Okay? Chapter 9 is one of the hardest ones because of all these little details, and so we do it open book. Just like any accountant would say, well, I'm not 100% sure, I'll just look in the book and check to make sure. All right? So we're going to do the same thing. So here we go with Chapter 9.